Hey everyone, this is Kit Cabello with Harlan's Media, and this is Perspective. So we've covered Tulsi Gabbard a few times on this show, especially in regards for her progressive policies, most notably her policy on foreign intervention and us having a different diplomatic platform for the American people. And unfortunately, for a long time, the United States has been acting on interventionist wars, and we've been doing it for a very long time. And Tulsi Gabbard did 2 tours in Iraq, and she saw firsthand the cost of war. Now, let's focus on some recent events that's happening right now, and has to deal with Iran and the United States. There was apparently an attack on a Japanese vessel that was carrying oil. Now, at least as it stands right now, the United States is basically putting blame on Iran for this attack. However, Iran is saying that they didn't do it. So I just want to get into the consequences of what's happening now. As it currently stands, the United States Navy is sharing new images saying that it links Iran to the attacks last week on 2 oil tankers in the Gulf of Oman. And Washington has accused Iran of blowing holes in the vessels with mines. Iran has denied these allegations. Iran's president said his country did not seek to wage war with any nation as it remained loyal to its international obligations. Overnight, 3 rockets hit a military base housing U.S. troops north of Baghdad, the Iraqi military said. The U.S. said it was under direct fire and did not cause injuries. No group said it carried out the attack, though the U.S. Warnings of increased threat to U.S. interests in Iraq by Iranian-backed militias. It almost seems like they're instigating or calling for Iran to make more military actions, even though Iran is saying that they're not doing any sort of military actions at all. In addition, 1,000 troops are being dispatched to the Middle East, is presented as a prudent defensive measure by the Pentagon. The recent attacks on 2 oil tankers being taken as a clear sign of Iran's hostile intent. They joined some 1,500 additional troops sent last month. Taken together, these deployments inevitably raise tensions, but they are clearly not in any sense an assault force. So this is the issue that's impacting a lot of people, especially in that region. Now, we have a video, at least from the BBC, that's talking about what could have possibly happened.
Caught in the act. Well, at least that's what the Americans say. This is aerial surveillance footage that the US says shows that white boat there, an Iranian Revolutionary Guards Corps patrol craft, right up next to the hull of one of the 2 tankers. This is the Japanese one that was hit by explosions, mysterious explosions, in the Gulf of Oman. What they're saying, the Americans, is that this is Iranian Special Forces commandos removing an unexploded limpet mine. And they've also actually released a photograph here where you can see on the left, it shows a hole in the side of this tanker, and on the right, what the Americans say is an unexploded limpet mine. Now, the Iranians, from their side, they don't deny that something has taken place, some kind of an attack, but they're saying they didn't do it. This has really turned into pretty much a propaganda war between Iran and the US. Now, all of this comes just 1 month after there was an earlier attack just offshore in the Gulf where 4 tankers got hit. That was blamed by the Americans on Iran. Again, Iran said they didn't do it, but it's raised tensions in the region.
So that's the narrative we're hearing from the BBC. Mind you, we're also hearing the same kind of narrative, but more intensely from corporate media like CNN, MSNBC, where they're basically blaming Iran for this attack. Now, it's very important for everyone to remember this, that the Iranian foreign minister has indicated that these attacks are quite suspicious. It should be noted that this is the first time in decades a Japanese prime minister visited the nation of Iran, where they were talking to Iran's president. This was in regards to trade deals and economic deals so that Iran and Japan could still have healthy trading relations. Also, this was a Japanese vessel that was carrying Iranian oil. And at least according to statements from the captain of the vessel as well as the crew, that a landmine did not attack the vessel. It did not blow up near the vessel. And apparently, at least according to the sources, something was flown at the vessel that caused it to sink, or at least caused it to be permanently damaged. So, and also there's another statement as well. At least in regards for sailors that were saved, Iran apparently has made a statement that they saved 44 sailors. The United States is indicating that they saved 21 sailors. But again, things are not adding up. Something is very suspicious, and a lot of people on social media are calling this attack a false flag, very similar to what led us to have military interventions in Vietnam. Also, this is a little bit of a historical fact. Since the country of Iran was formed, During its formation, it has only been occupied or has been in defensive wars. And at least historically, it has not invaded any other country, but it's constantly on the defense. And now when we get back to Tulsi Gabbard, she's been really speaking this strong message of peace, of a different kind of foreign policy. So here's her message towards President Trump and his administration in regards to basically swallowing his pride, because if there is military intervention, it's going to cost the lives of American men and women and also millions of civilians. Check it out.
War with Iran is highly likely unless Trump swallows his pride and returns to the Iran nuclear agreement that he tore up. My concern is that he will not put the interests of our country and those who would be killed in such a war ahead of his own pride and personal interests. He spent his entire life pursuing his own interests, even if it meant sacrificing the well-being of the American people or our country. We can only hope that his spiritual advisors will remind him of the words of Jesus Christ, when he said, "For what shall it profit a man if he gains the whole world and loses his soul?" Trump, we ask you to put aside all thoughts of what's good or not good for you politically and do the right thing.
So see, that's a very strong message to have, and you don't hear that from the other Democratic candidates that are running in this race. Tulsi Gabbard has seen the cost of war, and a lot of her constituents that are Democrats, Republicans, conservative, liberals, socialists, libertarians, it doesn't matter. They like her message of peace because we've been involved in these foreign wars for so many years that people are starting to wonder, well, why are we doing this? And now there's this growing conflict, this escalation that's happening in Iran. Should there be military conflict? We've said this on the Wednesday show, the Saturday show, and even when we do our individual live streams, that any kind of military action will be so costly that I doubt we will ever truly be able to recover from it. So here's Representative Tulsi Gabbard speaking to her constituents in regards to the dangers of these military escalations, as well as why we should avoid war with Iran.
The situation with Iran. This president has designated, for the first time in history, the military of another country as a terrorist organization. How dangerous that is, what a dangerous precedent that sets. Mike Pompeo, Secretary of State, literally said, when asked, "So you're saying that the head of Iran's military should be treated the same as ISIS?" He said yes. That is a direct abuse of constitutional power, a constitutional power that lies within Congress to make the decision to declare war or not. So I've introduced legislation to deal with some of these kinds of abuses called the No More Presidential Wars Act. And this legislation would make it an impeachable offense for any president to bypass Congress and to unilaterally go and start waging a war in another country. Because I want there to be no doubt. Someone said, okay, that's great. You introduced that legislation as a member of Congress. What are you going to do when you're president? Sign it. Thank you.
And see, that's a strong message. That's a message that a lot of Americans want to hear because, again, these attacks so far are extremely suspicious, and it almost seems like Iran has nothing to do with it at all. In fact, it almost seems like the perfect setup for a potential invasion of Iran. And again, in that video, Tulsi Gabbard has basically made the statement that President Trump and his administration is calling the nation of Iran and its military terrorists. This is unprecedented. We've never seen anything like this before. And we have to find a diplomatic measure of bringing back peace in that region, because if not, who knows what the cost will be in regards to human lives and as well as the chance of ever getting true peace in that region. We need strong democratic leaders to fight for a better future. And Representative Tulsi Gabbard has a strong political message, one of peace and a different type of foreign policy. And we have to say this again. She needs to be on those debate stages. Already she secured the first and second one, and she's growing slowly to be on the third one. But corporate media and the establishment are just drumming the beats of war again. except this time it may be more costly. And we need real leaders like Representative Tulsi Gabbard to say enough is enough. This is Kit with Hardlens Media. Peace. Hey everyone, did you like that video? Well, guess what? You can hit the subscribe button, hit that ring bell notification so that way you're updated when we upload new content to our YouTube channel.